raw panel protocol is the main way you can explore using SKAARHOJ panels in your own applications and your own hardware. And basically the raw panel protocol will make our hardware into a keyboard that offers you triggers like when you press a button or move a joystick, and also takes feedback and shows in the displays and button colors, etc. So this protocol is actually used by ourselves. So when we run the Reactor software on our panels to connect to cameras and switches and routers and all that stuff, it actually talks to the panel itself through raw panel. So it's really, really stable and well understood because we use it ourselves. And we also offer you a way to connect to our panels in the same way. This is known by a lot of people and loved by a lot of people, and it basically looks like the slide you see here. So it is that the panel has a TCP port you can connect to, and using the raw panel protocol, your TCP client on the network can work with the panel. Now, there's the other way around. That is when Reactor runs on the panel. As I just said, we'll control ATEM switches, cameras, etc. And unfortunately, basically, you shouldn't be able then to use it in raw panel mode at the same time, because now we use raw panel and we populate the whole panel with functionality. But there is a way. And in this video, I'll show you the ways you can combine these two things. And it works like here, that if you want to mix the world of Reactor with the world of raw panel, what you do is you enable Reactor, like if you control anything that we usually do, and then you choose the raw panel configuration, which will essentially pipe through the functionality of the panel to the external world. And basically two approaches. Either you want the panel mainly driven by Reactor, and then you want to have a few buttons that are raw panel enabled, or you want the whole panel to be raw panel enabled, and then just pick out a few buttons that are managed by Reactor. So we'll be looking at both cases in this video. To explore raw panel, we'll be using RAC Fusion Live, and that's this product, which is a RAC product that has a switching section, PTC section, and in the switching section, we can select sources on an ATEM switch or do transitions. We also have PTC cameras over here, and one of those will be the CRN100. I can control with a joystick. Actually, we do this over a VPN. This is in our office. I'm at home right now. And yeah, there's a CRN300 as well. Anyway, that's just how it normally works. And for that, it means that Reactor is using the panel in raw panel mode, and you can't access it from outside. One of the tools that helps us to work with the panel is called Raw Panel Explorer. It looks like this, and it actually finds our RAC Fusion Live on the network, but there is no connection button. And if you know about raw panel, you also know that we can use a netcat session like this one, try to connect, but it won't. Okay, so why is that? Well, the quickest and easiest way to change this is going to settings. We just added an option to enable raw panel mode, just like that. And you can even set the port number here. After setting this toggle, you can see that I can now connect using this button, and I actually load up this UI of the panel. If I take one of these buttons and I turn it on, it's turned on. I can put content into the display if I want. And I can also press the button and see something coming back to me. And all that actually is also what we can do from this terminal. So if I connect to it, type in list, I get, first of all, I instruct it to use the ASCII protocol. And secondly, I get triggers sent over in a clear text form that is very useful. So that's raw panel. And now the thing is, this panel is purely working without Reactor. So if we go back to Reactor's home screen, first of all, Reactor is actually disabled. That happens as a part of this process. So right now we can't do anything that way. Okay, I want to go back. I want to disable raw panel mode, which will also enable Reactor as it just told me. And if I reload the UI, we should hopefully see that Reactor is coming up. And there we go. We are basically back now to working with the panel as it was. Now, let's combine. Let's go into the panel, figure out, choose my configuration here, and then inside the menu section, which are essentially these buttons up here, I want to create a page where we can do something raw panel specific. So let's just add a page up here and make it a non-transparent page, call it raw panel, okay? Like this. All right, so when I navigate to this page, in the menu, you see those buttons blank out, and I now want them to send raw panel commands. Before I can do that, I need to add the raw panel device code. So you'll search up raw panel server. We have it right here. We'll select this one. Okay, so now you need to listen. carefully, because here we need to set up the right things. First of all, we want it to communicate on 9923. That's the port number, which also the panel would communicate on if it was enabled for raw panel connectivity otherwise, okay? We can set the max clients, we can choose protocol mode and lock to IPs. That's like what you can do inside of hardware settings, advanced stuff. So don't worry about that. But the important thing here is that you choose an embedded topology that matches the panel. So we'll just find a Rack Fusion Live, like the one that we have. That is very much recommended to do that. But basically that's what you need to do. Choose that embedded topology so that when anything connects to us through Reactor, it will report that this is a Rack Fusion Live. I know it sounds a little weird that you need to do that, but because wouldn't it know? But it's just how it is, okay? Because theoretically, this device core, the raw panel server device core, can simulate any raw panel. So it could be something else behind the scenes, just looking like if it is a raw panel, a Rack Fusion Live. All right, but adding this one now, it actually means that if we go back here, by the way, yes, disconnect, you'll see that it says there's a raw panel, Rack Fusion Live panel on the network. It's on this IP address on this port, but it is a strange serial number, and that serial number is in fact the fake serial number that is created by the raw panel server here. We could also change the port number just to make that more obvious. Anyway, we'll just go back here, connect to it, and it actually looks like it should. But the thing is, if I press anything on the panel, nothing will happen over here. So let's make that happen, okay? If we go back here, we are now ready in the configuration tab to populate these buttons with something useful. And for that, we'll use the raw panel server here. We can choose button action, and we're almost there. We just need to type in which hardware component ID we want to use. So this is one thing for which you really want to either use this one, because hardware components are the numbers you see in the upper right corner of the topology. And one place to find help for this would be Darkroom. Inside of Darkroom, this is our website where you find all our products. You can search up Rack Fusion and Rack Fusion Live. Click on one of these products, scroll to the bottom, use the wireframe, because the wireframe is it's a wireframe of the product that will actually show you the component numbers. So it's 10 up to 15. Those are the ones that we want to map, okay? So let's just go back here. We type in, no, wait, I think we can just do it for all of these. So that would be quick and nice and easy. Let me see, I think I may have to go back, assign button action to all of it. Batch edit the hardware component ID. I will enable it there. Add this one, 10, and then up to 15. Okay, so now I'm getting excited because now I want to see what happens. Let me just check. Okay, yes, it looks good. Every one of these was assigned the hardware component number. So we should see that now as we go over here into Raw Panel Explorer, where we are connected to the panel, and I press this button, I actually get these events through. Number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And guess what? Actually, and now you actually see it, you see it's lighting up in red here. So if you want to have a little fun here, you could actually try to use the number 1. Let's just quickly do that to really illustrate the point. If we change this over to 1 and exit, and we go back here and I press, wait, which one was it? Okay, it was X6. So it was this button here. I'm not pressing it yet, but I am pressing it now. And now it actually acts like if it is button number 1. Okay, so this is why it's important to get those numbers right. And effectively, what it means is that these buttons are now being controlled from the panel here. And what about sending stuff the other way? Can I do that? Yes. Let me just quickly check here. If we go over and we send the on command to turn this one on, you can see the buttons are actually turned on. And if you look inside, did this one not exit properly? Ah, it's 16. It should be 15. Okay, let's just do that quick. Yeah, so in fact, you see this simulated inside of our panel. It will actually reflect this. I can do more than that. I can also just add an image. So let's just put a grayscale image on. No, wait, we can't do that. But black and white like this, okay. And type in some text in the middle one of them. So hello, and then we put in world on the next one, okay. Okay, so now we have a little message in the display. We have also various colors that we want to try out. Let's put in red, some blue and some green and amber colors here. All right, we see it in the simulated version inside of Reactor. We see it on the panel, and guess what? If we are moving out of this menu by using the navigation, I now have perfect mix of using my ATEM switcher on these buttons. Going to the auxiliary page, I can change source on my auxiliary between camera 1, 2, and 3 and 4. I have media, I have macro recall, I have some audio control, DVE, and finally my raw panel page, where it will show the stuff that we had going for raw panel. So that is one great way to integrate raw panel. And it sort of means that if you have integrations of raw panel from someone else, you can use this as a way to mix that integration with Reactor. So the reverse situation is if you want to kind of have the most of the panel raw panel enabled and then some of it picked out for use with Reactor. And if you want to do that, let's go to the home screen and pick this configuration called raw panel React Fusion Live. Because right now it's like the whole panel is actually going to be like the whole panel is raw panel enabled. It's not clear right now, but if I go back to my simulator here, let's just quickly disconnect and then reconnect. You'll see now the whole panel is apparently managed by this application. If I turn on full throttle, you'll see it's pushing out a lot of content to everything on the panel here. And I do want to just find a funny little application we have, which is cycling button colors. And that is one that I think you can also find on our GitHub repository. So if you go there, SKAARHOJ repositories, you search up raw panel utilities. This is the one. You want this color display button test script. So it looks like this. And it is connecting to my panel, and then it will start to rotate button colors and put random content into the display. So what we have right now is in fact the situation that we saw on the slide. So it's this. It is the lower one that we have this TCP client on the network using the raw panel protocol to connect to, yes, port 9923, which is Reactor. And Reactor internally is using a socket connection to the hardware manager of the panel. So everything is piped through Reactor right now. Everything is piped through everything you see on that panel. And that means we can now overlay certain sections. So that's what we'll do as the next thing. So back in the Reactor UI, we'll simply go into the configuration section here. We see the raw panel config, but we choose the user section, and that would allow us to basically overlay something in here. We need to pick a button that we'll use to like activate our layer. So, basically, first of all, we'll create a new page. Let's just make it, no, wait, we'll make it transparent actually. That's okay. So on this one, few ATEM commands. Okay, we'll just call the layer that. And if I go to this layer, it is transparent. Transparent means that it will show what is underneath. And underneath, we have all the raw panel stuff running from my test script. But I can immediately show you that we could pick out these 6 buttons up here and then do something on the ATEM switcher with those. So let's do that. We'll make it a program preview select. Pick an ME row number 1, input number 1, use the batch editor to increase the input numbers, and maybe I actually have already decided that this should instead be a cut button, so I'll just change behavior and type in cut to search up something else. There we go, now we have a cut button, okay? Just need to add the ME row 2. Okay, let's just see if that works. This cut, working on an ATEM switcher apparently, while everything else is just doing its normal thing. So here I overlaid a few commands inside Reactor, and all I kind of need to do now, because if I go back to the background, you see now I disabled this layer. This transparent layer only overlays those 6 buttons. And back on the background, I have full transparency and see everything underneath. So basically what I might want to do now is to just create a little navigation button so I can get into this menu. We could use this encoder, that would be just fine. So with this one, we'll choose navigation, cycle pages, and if we do that, it is as simple as basically clicking this one. You'll see that it goes forth and back between those situations. Actually, I kind of made a mistake here because I now added this paging function on this layer. So you see that if I am on a background page, it shows what is underneath. So I put it on this transparent layer, and that's one of the traps of transparency that you need to keep in mind where you put things, because you see other things from other layers underneath. But we can just right click, copy this one, go to the background, and we can paste it in here. Or you could actually, now that you've pasted it in here, it will work. So I'm using the panel now to go forth and back. In all cases, this encoder is now blocked out with an action that does this navigation. And you could actually remove it on this layer because it will shine through from the background anyway. But the main point was that we could now do that the other way. Just substitute a few things, have the most of the panel run in raw panel mode, and that will also work. I want to show you a little bit, or talk a little bit at the end here about the differences that will appear. So if I just quickly go out here and if we scroll a little back in the history, you see that I connected to my React Fusion Live here, and this is what it showed me when I was connected to it as through the native hardware manager. It tells me that I am on a given version. It is a React Fusion Live. It is run by a platform called iBeam, and then it has a number of support features inside of it. Okay. So if I now do the same, simply connect to myself once again and type list, I get a little different information because this is the device core, the raw panel server that comes through Reactor, and it tells me that the platform is core, meaning that it is apparently different from iBeam. Okay. It also has a different list of supports, and the panel type is apparently emulation. So there are a few indications, the serial number for sure, also that I am actually working with a different React Fusion Live. But generally, most applications should recognize this and believe that this is a React Fusion Live and shouldn't care too much about the other pieces of information here. Another concern you should have is performance. If you do simple things like we have done here, it is not going to be a problem. But look what happens if I move the fader. The fader of my background script is sending over the fader position to all displays. And you see it's kind of lagging behind here because it is now sending all those display updates through Reactor. And that's a lot of work, more than Reactor is designed to handle in this case. So here you actually see that it would be much quicker if I go into settings and if I enable the raw panel mode. And now you're seeing the raw panel connection going straight to the hardware manager. And in this case, the update is going to be quicker. So just wait and see as I'm now moving the fader. We don't see that same laggy response that we had when all the messages had to pass through Reactor. So yes, the panel is much quicker when you talk directly to it, but it's only a concern if you really have a lot of data that you need to move through in this way. Thank you for watching. I hope this was a clear presentation of the two different approaches and how you can use Reactor as a middleman to combine raw panel world with Reactor world and get the best of both.